All right, I started this morning by putting in some of my usual talking points from my channel into ChatGPT, and I asked it to create some titles so that I could use it as an idea to make this video. And of course, it keyed in on one of the most dramatic talking points that I put into the program. And of course, being ugly isn't something that we talk about regularly or it's associated with low self esteem. But the AI came up with this title, The Hidden Cost of Being Ugly: How Appearance Shapes Your Entire Life. Now, that is a drama queen AI. But with that said, let's get into these 5 talking points because I think they're very important. In fact, I just saw a story on Yahoo News about a girl who's tired of her friends pretending that she's not ugly when she knows that when they go out together, men are always interested in them and not interested in her. It's the story of most girls who aren't attractive's entire lives. All right, with that said, let's segue right into the main talking points. So, our first talking point comes out like this: the influence of beauty standards on self esteem. Discuss how societal standards of beauty, reinforced by media and social platforms, contribute to lower self esteem, mental health challenges for individuals who don't conform to these ideas. The influence of beauty. The influence of beauty, even on men. There's a reason why every morning when I get to the gym, it's the same ugly guys that are there trying to cover up their a lack of aesthetics by replacing it with muscles. It doesn't matter. Muscles don't go past your chest and up and cover your face. They are, what would I call that? They're a peripheral, right? They're an extra. They're like the mouse and the keyboard, but you can't get past what's on the monitor. And unfortunately, no matter how much we work out and how great a shape you are in, when you start talking to someone that you're interested, if she's not interested in your personality, that's a big one. That's one that I don't think gets talked about seriously enough. I've met girls that were 5 and belows that their personality was so good that you could put them on a treadmill and help them out, get them down to where you would like, but the personality gets you hooked. It's like a good title. It's something that has to be there. And on the flip side of that, she could be a 10 with no personality at all and is vain and self-centered. And that doesn't last very long either because they like being the center of attention, and that's just not a thing you want to be. You don't want to be a person that the little troll that's walking around behind her. That's not good either. So my second talking point, and it's closer to what this video was supposed to be about, is the beauty bias in the workplace. The beauty bias and how it affects professional opportunities, including hiring practices, salary difference, job evaluations, disproportionately disadvantage those deemed less attractive. So if you've ever heard of this, it's called the halo effect, right? As long as you're attractive, you have a default good slate. But if you look like you're part of the proletariat, especially if you're a man, and I'm going to describe my Gen Zer at work right now: short, horrible personality, fat, negative, and balding. He's single, ladies, and he's ready to mingle. But as you can tell, those traits alone are one of the largest reasons why he's never gotten a career, because you're going to look at him, the way he behaves in the workplace, the fact that he probably has very few, if no, real life friends. All of his friends are online, and there's nothing you can do about it. When life sticks you with the disease of being ugly, there's not a whole lot you can do. You know that you're not attractive from about the time you enter kindergarten and you look around at the other children and you're the only one that looks like a gargoyle. In fact, whenever I meet a mildly attractive female and we get on the subject of how much more attractive she is than I am. So I want to let them know right away, hey, I'm talking to you, but you're out of my league. It's something I do all the time. And they're always like, oh, you're so hard on yourself. And I'm like, no, there's a reason why people like myself are going to be lifetime single, because we can't get out of the way of looking the way that we do. So when we go into job interviews and your boss is just like, oh my God, we can't bring this guy in here. He's way too short. He's way too fat. And he's way too unattractive. And it starts to cause your personality to become unattractive because of all of those other influences. When you're constantly being rejected by society, wherever you go, whether it's school, a grocery store, the gym, hell, even your own parents look at you and think, oh my God, what did we do wrong? Why did we have a child when we're both ugly people? That's something that I've never understood. When you look at your parents, and your mom's definitely never been a looker, and obviously your dad has low standards, and they create something, and you're that byproduct of that abomination of horrible genes, and you just kind of look at your parents, it's like, I'm here and I have to suffer because of choices that you made. And now I have to go into the workplace and I have to go into the world looking like this with a definite bias against me in everything I do. Talking point number 3, social isolation due to appearance. Yes, people, this is very, very true. The uglier you are, the more likely you are to be ostracized by society in general. Highlight the social struggles faced by individuals labeled as ugly. Include isolation, rejection, discrimination in social settings, which can lead to a cycle of loneliness and decreased social confidence. Most men that look like this have decreased social confidence. You don't go anywhere expecting for anyone to talk to you. And when someone does talk to you, like what I do every single time someone that is out of my league talks to me, I turn my head to see who they're talking to behind me. And 9 out of 10 times, they're not talking to you. So you just kind of put your head down and you walk really, you take small steps, but walk really fast to get out of that situation, because it's uncomfortable being put into that label. And no matter how much you want to scrub at the ugly, it doesn't come off. It's a permanent stain, almost a perfect mark between your eyeballs that says L for loser. And when you have to spend your entire life in that costume of being a loser, unless you get a ton of money or they start offering um, head amputations and then reattaching a new one. Like you can get a prosthetic head, and therefore you don't have to walk around looking like you do. Because let's face it, it's a tough world out there when you don't fit in, and it is a the constant rejection and the isolation. Why do you think I'm sitting here in a dark room twiddling my thumbs Sunday morning at 6:30 a.m.? I don't have places to be. I don't have people to see. I have a day that I am going to put together relatively soon, which involves going to my job to get my tea kettle. For some reason, I keep my tea kettle at work and I never use it there, so I'm going to go grab it. And there's nothing going on in my life. Tomorrow's my last day of being at home, and it's I don't like being at home because my house is boring. There's nothing to do. It's still hot as the devil's rear end out there. I asked ChatGPT yesterday, is it safe for me to ride my bike to the gym? And it said, not likely. The same answer you get from a magic 8 ball is what ChatGPT gave me about being outside. So, moving on to our fourth talking point: challenging and redefining beauty standards, emphasizing the importance of recognizing and challenging arbitrary beauty standards, advocating for inclusivity. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with that word. Diversity, broader definitions of beauty that goes beyond superficial traits. And this is what I started talking about in the first talking point. beyond superficial traits. Some people can get past their raw ugliness by having a great personality. But unfortunately, not being a person that's attractive or being part of the group of people who seems to be having fun means that you're going to become more and more introverted and socially isolated. Therefore, it's hard to develop your personality when you're constantly facing rejection and discrimination in social settings. You learn to be ugly inside. So when you meet a person who actually has a good personality and they're on the scale at a 5 or below, you have to commend them because they haven't let their outer challenges affect their inner person. And I have met a few girls throughout my recent years, that they tried to smile at everyone. And when you smile at a person that considers themselves very unattractive, it is very confusing. I'm used to people looking at me and then looking down or looking in the opposite direction. That's how you learn to cope with life. When a person doesn't want anything to do with you, if you make eye contact with them, they're going to make it a point to let you know that they do not want to engage you in any social way, and you are to stay as far out of their way as humanly possible. And it's I guess it's a catch 22. It's like if you're an unattractive person, you're going to have an unattractive personality by default. And to fight that unattractive personality truly does take a better person, at least a better person than myself. But as I've said, I have met at least 5 girls in the past month that, despite their being not traditionally attractive. In fact, yesterday when I was at the gym, I was getting there for my second trip. I ran into the new girl janitor that works there, and I told her that I hadn't seen her since she started cleaning the toilets at the gym. And she looked, for a girl that had been scrubbing toilets for the past 6 hours or whatever she was scrubbing, she looked amazing. And I'm not a big fan of people with dark complexions. I've always been a lily white, pink. My favorite color of skin is pink, and pink is an extremely rare color of skin. Pink, I would say, is probably in the top three of colors of skin that you will rarely see. But it's my favorite color. So she's on the complete opposite spectrum of what I normally like. But I was very physically attracted to her, and she was well aware because she walked over to me yesterday as she was getting ready to leave work, and she says, "You look really surprised to see me." And I said to her, "Yes, because I know you're around because your car's parked up front, and I get glimpses of you every once in a while coming in and out of the janitor's hole, but I never see you." And she's just like, "Well, I miss you too." And I thought to myself, she's looked, her hair was perfect. In pants, she doesn't look that good. But in shorts, because she works out so much, her thighs are like sticking out of her yoga shorts, like really big muscles. And overall, she's a very low educated person who's lived the life of the proletariat woman. I'm actually surprised she's still single. Every time I walk past her and she's not wearing a ring, and she never talks about being with anyone in all the times that I've interacted with her before in her previous job. But again, she's probably one of those people that realizes that she's not traditionally attractive and has therefore had to create a good personality in order to combat the rest of your shortcomings. It's like a person that receives a brain injury. Your brain will try to compensate for the injured part of that side of your brain or wherever the injury is by reallocating resources inside of your head and rewiring parts of your brain that weren't normally used for something in order to be able to continue to live as normal of a life as humanly possible. Anyhow, our final talking point here is empowerment through self acceptance. Encourage Encourage viewers to embrace their unique appearance, reject harmful social standards, and find empowerment in self acceptance and authenticity, fostering a more inclusive and supportive community. Forcing people who are attractive to treat people who are unattractive well is never going to work. For telling people not to discriminate against other people is never, ever, ever going to work. It's like telling the very rich people that they need to be kinder to the 99% by increasing their wages and providing them with better employment and better benefits, with a better life. Really is what it comes down to. This is exactly what it's saying. It's, people who have the resources should include people who don't. And we don't live in a society that's like that. Whether it's in the workplace, at school, or out there in the real world. If you don't have something that's considered a desirable thing, like money, high level of education, um, a good family name, you come from generations of inherited wealth. Now, if you grow up in the inner city and you're the byproduct of systemic poverty, generational poverty, your chances of getting out of that aren't good. Your genetics are going to play a big factor. Like that movie I showed you guys of those two families that they recorded for 20 years, how the children ended up working in the very same factories that their parents were, and we're going to continue the cycle of poverty into the next generation. Because these people don't stop and take into consideration, maybe I shouldn't have kids since I didn't make it just like my parents did make it. No, they just go into the next generation and they do the same thing their parents did. Chances are their kids are going to see the same thing. It's like my parents had kids. I want to have kids. I'm poor. Maybe I should stop. No, that's not what they do. And it strikes me as very odd because for I am the last generation in my family who's not going to have children. I come from very, very large families. My mom had 5 kids. I think her mom had 10 or 12 kids. Very, very large farm family. And before her, I'm sure they had even more kids. So it's been a steady growing family of lots of kids. And it ends with me. I just didn't have the resources or the personality or any part of me that wanted to have children. Like I look at the world in which my children are going to grow up, and if my children are going to follow in my footsteps and have to work in call centers or retail or a warehouse, I don't want that. If I could ask my children, my preemptively, you have to sign a waiver knowing full well that you're going to spend most of your life alone and isolated and probably meet your end alone. Do you want to live that life? If I had that waiver right now, I would say definitely not. There's not one single thing that has happened to me in my entire adult life that I have wanted. I've spent my whole life trying to forget my past and not think about the future. I'm a person that lives in the day because there's nothing to look forward to tomorrow. Tuesday morning, when I show up at my dead end job, it's going to be the same problems every single day. And the isolation of the work is it's all encompassing. For pretty much for the past 3 years, I've just sat in an empty room by myself and just kind of looked at the ceiling. Then I look at the security cameras and I imagine my boss looking at me and how pathetic I look sitting there with no possibility of promotion, no possibility of anything getting better, knowing full well that I'm going to sit there for 8 hours. Then I'm going to follow the exact same pattern that I have my entire life. I'm going to get up out of my desk. I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to use the Promobile to go get some Prol beer. Then I'm going to come home and watch some Prol entertainment. Then I'm probably going to beat the snake for at least 2 tries before I go to bed. Sometimes I don't make it to the second try because the Prol beer's already affected me. And then I'm going to wake up out of a righteous hangover, get my Promobile, and repeat for eternity. That's the life of the proletariat. Sure, there are parts of the proletariat that are definitely more active. They're more capable of putting up with Susie Rottencrotch that's below a 5, but always sitting behind the Taco Bell knowing that Johnny Sixpack might show up at any second and she has to assume the position. Mello and I were talking about how Susie assumes the position the second she gets a whiff of Johnny Sixpack showing up. And it's like she just puts her hands up against the wall, lifts up onto her toes, and it's mating time. But with that said, I'm going to cut this video here. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you disagree with any of my talking points, again, remember I asked the AI about about my normal day-to-day life, being lonely, being depressed, and being unattractive. And this is what it created. And so I think it's a pretty neat way of generating videos because this isn't a video that I would have normally made. I would have talked about this in a completely different way, really focusing in on how hard the lives of normal working class people that don't have much money and aren't attractive. But with that said, I hope you guys are enjoying your Sunday morning. I got to get ready to go to the gym to get rid of some of the UGG, which doesn't seem to come off. And I have a slight injury. Like I was talking to the chiropractor yesterday, and she's like, "This injury right here on your chest comes from bouncing the weight off of your chest when you do chest presses." But I don't work out like that. I think it's not good for you, first of all, to bounce a heavy weight off your chest because all of this area right here where you bounce the weight is cartilage, so it's easily damaged. So you never want to do that. But anyhow, I gotta get ready to go scrub off some of the UGG in the gym, and I will talk to you guys later on in the day.